What's happening around the world?
And what's happening here at home? A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Rochelle Gumodere.
And I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
On to your top story for tonight, former Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella, who was in remand custody for 8 months, was granted bail today by Malika Kanda Magistrate Lojane Abevikrama.
Kehelia Rambukwella was arrested for procuring and distributing substandard medicine within the country's hospital system. And he was also granted bail over former Deputy Director of the Ministry of Health, Herath Kumara, and former Chief Executive Officer of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, Dr. Vijit Gunasekara.
The Malika Kanda magistrate concluded that the suspects were under severe mental stress and facing serious mental health conditions. Consequently, the magistrate ordered their release on 2 separate sureties of 5 million rupees each and a cash bail of 100,000 rupees. Deputy Solicitor General Lakmini Girihagama, representing the Attorney General, presented a report containing recommendations from the Government Medical Board concerning the suspects. According to the report, the suspects face a risk to their lives and are suffering from serious mental health issues, with their cardiac conditions also being serious, as confirmed by the Medical Board. The Deputy Solicitor General objected to granting bail, citing the medical reports were obtained in 2019. Kehelia Rambukwella's lawyer argued that the medical reports indicated a potential risk of disease over the next decade, but the current conditions did not reflect these risks. The Deputy Solicitor General highlighted that the suspect had failed to present his current medical condition to the Medical Board. She said that given the current health status, granting bail was not possible. In response, the magistrate observed that former Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella, now aged 71, was suffering from significant illnesses as noted by the court. The magistrate also noted that being held in remand for over 7 months was a crucial factor. It was stated that the medical condition of the suspect was progressively worsening according to the medical reports. Accordingly, the magistrate decided to consider the medical recommendations as exceptional factors and ordered the release of the suspect on bail.
Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
Sri Lanka dollar bonds face a sell-off amid political uncertainty in the country.
Bloomberg reported that a sell-off in Sri Lanka's dollar bonds intensified on Monday as investors reduced their exposure to the country due to rising political uncertainties ahead of the elections later this month. The country's dollar bonds due in 2030 fell by 30 cents on the dollar to 49.9 cents, marking the lowest level since February and extending their decline from their peak this year to about 15%. Similarly, notes due in 2027 dropped more than 1 cent cent to 49.6 cents. Market pressure has increased as the September 21st elections approach, with investors concerned that a change in leadership could disrupt ongoing debt negotiations that are close to completion. Opposition leaders have indicated their intention to renegotiate terms of Sri Lanka's program with the International Monetary Fund. Purvihar Lanka, a senior emerging markets sovereign debt strategist at M&G, was quoted as saying that the current weakness in Sri Lankan bonds reflects the heightened uncertainty around election outcomes and consequently the timeline of the restructuring. He added that a possible NPP victory would push the timeline considerably beyond what the market was previously expecting.
General Secretary of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna Tilben Silva said that as National People's Power's victory approaches, opposing political groups have begun to attempt to destabilize the country. He also clarified the party's position on the IMF program at a media briefing today.
As we approach this victory, we are seeing opposing political groups starting to destabilize the country instead of engaging in their politics. We as the NPP want to make it very clear that all these claims are completely false. Do not believe them. We need to state clearly that we are going to win. That is clear. But our victory will not come through creating conflicts or overthrowing the government in a few months. We have a plan, policies and a significant public force to implement these policies. Anura Disanayaka is not a foolish character like Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He is knowledgeable, capable and has demonstrated his abilities over a span of 24 years in Parliament with various responsibilities. Therefore, if anyone makes assumptions or dreams that things will fall apart within a few months, that is completely false. So, we tell the people, we are winning. We are forming a strong government. We are building a stable government. Furthermore, we are working to develop this country and are not creating fear. If someone says that there will be significant turmoil in the country once Anura becomes president, or that there will be bloodshed and attacks on opponents, we assure you that these are lies. You should get answers from them. Ask them who is making such claims, because these fears are extremely severe. However, we must pay attention to the possibility that those who create these fears might have some agenda to manipulate the NPP. Claims that they will cut off assistance to the poor and take away assets from the middle class are completely false. For instance, if we come to power, they claim we will seize one car from someone who has two, one house from someone who has two, or take over businesses. These are all false. On the other hand, we are not going to cancel the agreement with the IMF. We have been very clear about this. We are not going to cancel the agreement. It is not possible to cancel such an agreement. However, we are discussing what we can change about it. We are discussing how to address unfavorable conditions for the country within the agreement.
Independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe responded to NPP's presidential candidate Anura Kumar Disanayaka's challenge for a debate.
Independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe participated in a meeting with scholars and businessmen in Kurunegala yesterday.
කැලණියේදී අනුර කුමාර දිසානායක මගේ මිත්‍රයා කියන්නේ එපා කිව්වා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා හිටපු කෘෂිකර්ම ඇමති අනුර කුමාර දිසානායක
In Kalaniya, Anura Kumara Disanayaka stated that he does not want to be called my friend. Former Minister of Agriculture Anura Kumara Disanayaka said he is actually discussing the export-oriented economy. However, in their manifesto, they propose abolishing free trade agreements. How can there be an export-oriented economy without free trade agreements? It is impossible to export goods without these agreements as they provide benefits and relief. There is also another individual along with Surya Peruma who filed a case claiming that the Economic Promotion Act I introduced is against the constitution. I question that. Now they are inviting me to a debate in Anamadua. How can I participate in a debate when they can't even decide if they support an export-oriented economy? First, there should be a debate between former Agriculture Minister Anura Disanayaka, Suril Handunethi and Surya Peruma to clarify their stance on an export-oriented versus import-oriented economy. Once that is clarified, we can then have a discussion between him, myself and the IMF Managing Director. Simply having a conversation between just the two of us will not suffice. We should also invite Sajid. I am concerned that once he starts speaking, 2 hours might pass and the Managing Director might leave the discussion early because she has other commitments. He often changes the subject, so if we are discussing the economy, let's stay focused on it.
2022 මේ රට කඩා වැටුණු වෙලාවේ ඉඳන් උදේ ඉඳන් රෑ වෙනකන් තරුණයෙක් වගේ ජවයෙන් වැඩ කරනවා. කොහොමද ජනාධිපතිතුමනි මෙච්චර ජවයක් කොහොමද එහෙම වැඩ කරන්න ඔබතුමාට හයියක්?
බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ වයස කීයද පිරිනිවන් පෑව අවස්ථාව? 80 වෙනකන් ඇවිදගෙන ගියා ගංගානම් නිම්නේ. අන්තිම වෙනකන් ඇවිදගෙන ගියා. ඉතින් Tamanට ශක්තිය තියෙනවා නම් සෞඛ්‍යය තියෙනවා නම් වැඩ කටයුතු කරත්.
මම අතිකරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් මේ සභාව වෙනුවෙන් විමසා සිටින්නේ ඒරම හොරු කියන මේ ප්‍රවාදයට පිළිතුරු වශයෙන් ඔබතුමන්ගේ ඉදිරි දැක්ම කෙසේ වන්නේද කියන එක.
තම්බුතේක මුතුනේ පොඩි විද්‍යාලයක්. මම මේක මධ්‍ය මහා විද්‍යාලයක් ඇතුළේ දියුණු කරන්න ගොඩනැගිලි දුන්නා. ඒකේ හිටිය අනුර දිසානායක කියලා ශිෂ්‍යෙක්. එතුමා ඒක ඉවර කළා ගියා කැලණිය විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයට. ඒකත් අර ජයාජවර්ධන ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ කාලේ හැදුවේ එක. ඉතින් ඒකත් කළා එතුමා එකෙන් පිට වුණා. පිට වෙලා ආවා ශ්‍රී ජයවර්ධනපුර නගරේ ඒ වෙනකොට අපේ අගනුවර. එතන විශාල පාර්ලිමේන්තුවක් හදලා තිබුණා. එතුමා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ලිව්වා අවුරුදු 70ක් මුකුත් කළා නැහැ කියලා. අවුරුදු 76 දී දැන් කී දෙනෙක් අධ්‍යාපනය ලැබනවද? හරි ඉතින් මේ ඉන්න ඔක්කොම අයින් කළා කවුද අපි දාන්නේ? ඒ වෙනුවට අර බැනීමේ හිල් තියන එක්කෙනාද? මේ ඔක්කොම අයින් කළා එයාව දානවද? කවුද දාන්නේ? මේ මහ බොරුවන්නේ.
මාලිමාව දිනනවා කියලා. මම කිසිසේත් මේක පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ. මම පුද්ගලිකව ඔබතුමා කොහොමද මාලිමාව පරද්දන්නේ කියලා අහන්න ආසයි.
වන්නිහත් පතෙන් පළවෙනි ජනාධිපතිතුමා මාලිමාව ගැන මොනවා කියන්නද මට? මාලිමාව කියන්නේ මොකද්ද මාලිමාව කියන්නේ?
දිශාව බලන්නේ උතුරු දිශාව හොයාගන්න.
ඔව් දිශාව බලන්න. කොහොමද කරන්නේ? මැග්නට් එකෙන්නේ. මැග්නට් එක වැරදුනොත් ඒකත් වැරදි තැනට හැරෙනවා. එච්චර වෙලා තියෙනවා.
දැන් අපි පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳන්ම දැක්ක ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයක් සහ ප්‍රබල විපක්ෂයක්. එතකොට JVP එක ලංකාව තුල ගොඩාක් ප්‍රබල හානි කරපු පක්ෂයක්. එකපාරටම මේ පක්ෂය මාලිමාව නම් මේ තරම්ම මේ අරගල කියන්නේ රැල්ලක් ඇති වෙන්න හේතුව වුණේ මොකද්ද කියලා?
මාලිමාව නැගලා ආවේ සම්ප්‍රදාය.
The Malimava or the compass emerged because the traditional opposition failed to perform effectively. Sajith Premadasa should never have given the opportunity for another party to emerge as opposition leader. Dudley Senanayake did not allow it. Mrs. Bandaranayake did not. JR did not. Mahinda Rajapaksa did not. And I did not either. If one is given the opportunity to become the opposition leader and establish another party, what is the outcome? If one allows the opportunity for another party to emerge while he or she is the opposition leader, what is the outcome? The truth is, nothing gets done. We don't know how much support there will be. If people have questions about the government and want to address them, they should now go to the Malimava or compass, because otherwise the time is wasted giving speeches in parliament. Questions are sidelined and speeches dominate. The real question is how much support they will get in the elections. Currently, in postal voting, Sajith and the SJB were in third place. That's how it has turned out. The compass or the Malimava came about because of the opportunities granted to them. If one cannot safeguard their own position, how can they safeguard the country?
තුන්වෙනි තැනට වැටලා තිබුණේ. ඉතින් අන්න ඒකයි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මාලිමාව ආවේ ඉතින් අර ඉඩ දුන්නේ නිසා. ඉතින් Tamanට ඉඩ දෙන්න Tamanට ඒක ආරක්ෂා කරන්න බැරි නම් කොහොමද රට ආරක්ෂා කරන්නේ?
Presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa said that a national policy and a special presidential task force will be established under an SJP government.
The Senior Citizens Conference of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya was held in Borala this morning. Many representatives of senior citizen organizations attended this event.
I think this is the first formal gathering specifically for senior citizens. We did not even have a council. Only a few people in top positions are given prominence, while others are sidelined. Did anyone address us? I'm 70 years old. I have endured hardship since childhood. As the eldest in my family, I suffered and eventually went abroad. For 43 years, along with many others, faced great challenges and contributed to our country by bringing in foreign exchange. Our money funded the war. But what's the current situation? Do we have a pension? We should be receiving 1,000 or 2,000 rupees, but we are not getting it. The suffering we endure is immense. When we go to buy medicine, the cost often exceeds what we can afford. We deeply suffer as a group and we hope that you will consider providing an allowance for us elders.
අපේ රටේ සතර දිග්භාගයේ තිබෙන වැඩිහිටි සංවිධා 14000කට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් මම මේ 14000ටම අද මම පොරොන්දුවක් වෙනවා අප රටේ වැඩිහිටි ප්‍රජාව වෙනුවෙන්.
There are over 14,000 senior citizens organizations in this country. To all of these, I promise today that we will create a national policy for the elderly community. I want to announce that we will establish a special presidential task force to implement this national policy. Our goal is to safeguard the rights of the senior citizens and empower you with clear objectives and timelines for its execution. The elderly community represents the life, soul and strength of our nation. You are a group that has contributed immensely to our country. I was deeply moved when Mrs. Veronica Aridasa delivered such a beautiful and emotional speech, and I immediately called my mother to listen to it. You are truly a valuable asset. While some may view you as a burden, that is far from the truth. You are key participants in the developing, strengthening and enriching this nation. I promise you that under this JB government that will emerge on the 21st, as the President of the country, I am committed to creating an environment where the elderly community can live happily. We will achieve this by promoting and implementing the principles of respectful and compassionate treatment of the senior citizens through the national policy. Previous governments provided a 15% savings interest rate to senior citizens, but the current government has reduced it. I am pleased to announce that under our government, we will restore and provide that 15% interest rate once again.
වැඩිහිටි ප්‍රජාවට සතුටින් ජීවත් විය හැකි වාතාවරණයක් පරිසරයක් ගොඩනගන්නට අපි අනිවාර්යෙන්ම කැප වෙනවා කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න කැමතියි.
Presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa promised the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, that he will punish the masterminds of these Sunday attacks regardless of their positions. This promise was made during a discussion held today. Sajith Premadasa also emphasized that he is committed to a judicial process aimed at offering support to the victims of the Easter Sunday attacks.
Presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Andra Kumar Dissanayaka, responded to Ranil Wickremesinghe at a public rally in Digana today. We are set to embark on a new journey on the 21st September. The National People's Power is dedicated to revitalizing our country's economy with a new direction. Ranil is asking me about the economy. It is the economy you collapsed. Ranil Wickremesinghe's tenure resulted in an unsustainable debt burden, including $12.5 billion in international sovereign bonds, which we are now struggling to repay. These debts are a direct consequence of his actions. Our approach as the National People's Power will redefine economic management by effectively utilizing our resources, engaging with international markets, current affairs, and adopting new technologies. Ranil Wickremesinghe will not even comprehend this, since the only thing in his mind is personal gain. We are going to initiate this new transformation. Also, I'm thankful to all the state sector employees, as I know that they have made the right choice.
Presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna, Nama Rajapaksa, said that false promises cannot be made for petty political purposes. A public rally was held today near the Koskama public grounds in support of Nama Rajapaksa, the presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna.
අද බොහෝ අය කතා කරනවා තමන් පොලිම අයින් කරා තෙල් පොලිම අයින් කරා
Today, many people are discussing how they removed the fuel queues, stopped power cuts and other issues. The truth is, there was no money to remove fuel queues before Gotabaya Rajapaksa's departure, and before he left, he did not manage to find the necessary funds. There was a reason for his departure. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was supposed to decide whether to protect the government or the state. He did not make a decision, so we will advance the government and protect the state. Bangladesh is a good example. Bangladesh did not face an economic crisis. In the end, what happened? Clearly, there are conspirators who want to undermine leaders focused on nationalism in our country and our region. Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government fell victim to such a conspiracy. We were advised not to follow nationalism, but to go in the direction that the current situation demands. Even if the 13th Amendment was enacted, there was no need to follow the current direction. Plans were made to gather votes. No, we cannot agree to that. Even if we go to the north, I clearly state that there will be no police and land powers given. Why would we lie? We cannot make false promises. Those who said there would be no increase in salaries or taxes 2 or 3 months ago are now talking about increasing salaries by 50,000 rupees. Those who said electricity tariffs could not be reduced are now issuing cabinet papers to reduce them. Making decisions based on petty political motives will not bring justice to the future generations of this country. It could be politically disadvantageous for us, but we are not ready to make any decisions that harm the country, and we are stating that very clearly.
MP M.A. Sumandiran said that there is no change in the decision taken by his party to support Sajith Premadasa. Mave Senathirajah and Sridharan had suggested that we reconsider the party's decision, but there's no need to reconsider it as the decision was made following proper procedures. They have now accepted this stance and agreed that future discussions should be held with Sajith Premadasa.
சஜித் பிரேமதாஸ் அவர்களுடைய இந்த தேர்தல் விஞ்ஞாபன வரைவிலே குறிப்பாக இந்த மீளப்பெறப்பட முடியாத அதிகாரம் தொடர்பான பதம் அந்த வாக்கியம் உங்களால் வழங்கப்பட்டது.
மூன்று பிரதான வேட்பாளர்களுக்கும்
Yes, I wrote it and I included it for all 3 main candidates. Andhra Kumar Dissanayaka's election manifesto states that he will end the process of drafting the constitution implemented from 2015 to 2019. Although it is not mentioned directly, it is subtly conveyed in their statements.
அதை அவர் வெளிப்படையாக சொல்லாமல் இப்படி சூட்சமமாக சொல்லியிருக்கிறார்.
சில வேளை அனுர்குமார் திசாநாயக்க ஜனாதிபதியாக தெரிவு செய்யப்பட்டால் சில வேளை அவர்களோடு இணங்கி இணக்க அரசியல் செய்யறதுக்கு உங்களுடைய கட்சி தயாரா?
இணக்க அரசியல் என்று எல்லா வேளைகளிலும் கேள்வி கேட்கிற போது
Yes, we are ready. We work together in the Yahapalne government. Even if we are in the opposition when they come to power, there will be many issues to address, particularly concerning fraud and corruption. For instance, a case involving sugar tax fraud is forthcoming and it's filed by Sunil Handunetti. I am representing him as his lawyer in that case.
In the heart of Sri Lanka, amidst lush green landscapes and ancient ruins, a group of young minds faced a daily struggle. The struggle for something we often take for granted: pure, refreshing water. But today, a new chapter unfolds.
A group of students in the heart of Sri Lanka have finally found relief from a decades-old struggle: the lack of access to clean drinking water. The Nikapotha Mahavidyalaya in Badulla, a school nestled amidst lush green landscapes, has been plagued by a water crisis that has significantly impacted the students' health and education. For years, these students have had to walk long distances to find a reliable source of water. The water they found was often contaminated, leading to various health issues. Recognizing the urgent need for clean water, Gammaptha stepped in to provide a solution. The Airlines Pilot Guild of Sri Lanka funded and installed the water purification system at the school. This system ensures that the students now have access to a reliable supply of clean drinking water.
I believe that the Gammaptha movement renders a great service to society. To make it a success, we must work together. We is important, not just me. The happiness we get from these projects is invaluable.
These children have now turned a new page in their lives, a chapter filled with hope, health, and the promise of a brighter future. The installation of the water purification system is not just a physical change, but a testament to the power of community and the unwavering spirit of humanity. Gammatha, for the people, by the people.
Gammatha. Wanted. A leader. A Sri Lankan with the courage to lead a resplendent nation and her people into an exciting future. A Sri Lankan with intelligence and grace. A leader with a clean heart and a clean record. A leader in love with Sri Lanka. A leader this nation deserves. The presidential election 2024. Sri Lanka, you decide. Newsfirst, we report.
Leader of the United Republic Front, Patali Champika Ranawaka, made this revelation at a conference in Nugegoda today.
In 2016, during the second central bank bond scam, when we called for the removal of the central bank governor, Ranil Wickremesinghe said he would resign. We told him to leave if he wanted. Now, there are reports that another scandal is about to unfold tomorrow. Bonds worth 290 billion rupees are going to be issued. The news is that this old scam will be conducted with high interest rates. Therefore, I am telling Finance Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe that we are watching closely. We will not allow another central bank bond scam to occur, and we will not permit this country's people to become further indebted under your watch.
Still in your local news, executive member of the National People's Power, Vasantha Samarasinha, also made a revelation today at a media briefing held in Anuradhapura.
මහජන බැංකුවේ සිස්ටම් එකක් අප්ග්‍රේඩ් කරන සිස්ටම් එකක් ගේන්න හදනවා ආණ්ඩුව. BDS අප්ග්‍රේඩ් කියලා මේකට කියන්න හදන.
The government is planning to update the system at the People's Bank. They are referring to this as the BDS upgrade. This requirement was present 2 years ago. Now they need to update the transaction system at the People's Bank and improve it further. However, this has now been delayed. Not only has it been delayed, but the system is also now associated with a Sri Lankan company involved in very corrupt transactions, which is connected to the president. We have some details about this. By now, this transaction is worth several $1 million. If converted to rupees, it amounts to around 3 billion rupees. So, what is happening now? The transaction for the BDS system to be installed at the People's Bank 2 years ago has suddenly come to light. Now, the board of the People's Bank is being instructed to immediately approve and incorporate this BDS system. However, there is also an option to obtain a more advanced and cost-effective system with a similar capacity for 50% less at 1.5 billion rupees. There are people who can provide it at that cost. The People's Bank has all the necessary information regarding the technology required for this new system. However, if we go for this new system, it could be obtained for 1.5 billion rupees. Instead, the directors are being pressured to acquire the system from Ranil's friend for 3 billion rupees. When? Before the elections. Just as a wild elephant destroys homes and takes lives, Ranil is now trying to clean out the People's Bank. Therefore, the plan is to get 1.5 billion rupees and divide it with his friend. There is nothing new being added to the process at the People's Bank with the BDS system. What are they trying to do?
යාළුවත් එක එකතු වෙලා බෙදා ගන්න මේ හදන්නේ. නිසා මේ BDS සිස්ටම් එක දැම්මා කියලා මහජන බැංකුවේ මේ ක්‍රියාවලට අලුතෙන් එකතු වෙන ඇති දෙයක් නැහැ. මේ මොකද්ද කරන්න හදන්නේ?
The People's Bank told Newsfirst that the banking system introduced in 2004 has been updated several times to meet changing needs. Although a need for further updates has arisen, the bank has indicated that a final decision on the relevant updates has not yet been made. The bank emphasizes that proper procedures for updates are currently being followed and that no agreements or payments have been made. Are 80 ministers preparing to leave the country? The media questioned the Minister of Public Security, Tiran Alas, regarding this today in Kandy.
රටපුර යම්කිසි ව්‍යාකූල භාවයක් තිබ්බා දෙඩි චෝදන එල්ල වුණා પાස්පෝර්ට් කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන්. නමුත් මේ වෙනුවට යම්කිසි ආකාරයක එම තුලුකාරී තත්ත්වය අඩුවීමක් කොහෙද දක්න මොකක්ද ඔබතුමා මෙතනදී ගත්ත උපාය මාර්ග?
නෑ ගැටලුකාරී තත්ත්වයක්.
No, I believe the significant issues were primarily created by politicians. Opposition politicians used the visa and passport issues to gain political advantage, portraying them as massive problems. While there is indeed an issue with passport issuance, particularly a small shortage until new passports arrive, we are managing and distributing the existing ones effectively.
බෙදා හරිනවා.
මේ සමග ජන බලවේගයේ නායක සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහතා නුවර වේදිකාවේදී කියනවා වීසා සහ පාස්පෝර්ට් වල විශාල මාෆියාවක් තියෙනවා. කිසියෙකුට එක්ම බලයට පත් වෙච්ච ගමන් මේ සම්පූර්ණ මේක රටට එළිදරව් කරලා දඬුවම් ලබා දෙනවා.
We are already taking action against any mafia involved. We are apprehending those involved, bringing them to justice and taking all necessary measures.
ඇත්තටම වේදිකාව අපිට අහන්න ලැබුණා ඇමතිවරු ප්‍රති ඇමතිවරු 80 දෙනෙක් වීසා අරන් ඉන්නවා 21 වෙනිදා රැගෙන මේ නම ශ්‍රී ලංකාවෙන් පිටත් වෙන්න කියලා එක බොරුවක් දැක්කත්.
I don't think that is true. However, we don't know if anyone has actually obtained visas or not. If someone does get a visa, it would be through the respective ministries. I always have visas. I've had visas for up to 10 years for all countries even before I took up this ministerial position.
A political rally organized by the National People's Power was held in Kandy today.
The rally was held at the Mahayawa Municipal Council grounds in Kandy. Presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Andrew Kumar Disanayake, made the following remarks during the event.
We met with state leaders of countries such as Japan, India and China. We engaged in deep dialogue with them on how our foreign policy will be shaped and the manner in which we will forge strong foreign relations. We have planned out the method of how this country will be placed on the right economic trajectory to gradually develop our capacity to produce goods and provide services. That is the renaissance. Sajit Premadasa's policies are shallow. How can those develop a nation? All he says is that he will donate things. If that was possible, the treasury would do it. What does he keep mentioning? Each school will be connected to a wealthy individual. If a person at the Kundasale Pradesh Sabha said the same and his surname was not Premadasa, would you support him? That is not the need of the hour. What is required is a serious political and economic transformation. Ranil Wickramasinghe considers everything a laughing matter. His thinking is, if a hike in state sector salaries is announced the day before postal voting begins, state sector officials will queue up to vote for him. He has failed to understand the people's thinking. I heard him mentioning in Yapahua that Bandi fertilizer will be distributed free of charge when he wins. The Yala season is over already and sowing has not even begun for the Maha season. Bandi fertilizer will only be required in February. He will be home by that time. He has no grasp of the nation, its people and their feelings. We are prepared to take over this nation and save it. Some say we will only last 6 months. Only last 6 months after working for decades?
මේ දේශපාලනේ මෙච්චර මහන්සි වෙලා දශක ගණනාවක් වැඩ කරලා මාස 6 යන්න පව්.
Senaka Batagoda, a cherished figure in the music industry, passed away early this morning at the age of 65.
Senaka Batagoda, a beloved artist who followed a unique path and dedicated numerous creations to his fans, was widely popular. He gained widespread affection with a number of songs, including Apikauruda, Sihinamawa Nati, Sanasuma, Sanasennamma, and Nidinati Raya. 65-year-old Senaka Batagoda passed away while receiving treatment at the Ragama Hospital. The final rites are scheduled to be held next Saturday at the Barala General Cemetery.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Step away from the conventional art of storytelling. Get ready for the Newsfirst Breakfast Rundown with me, Zulfikar Farzan.
On to news overseas. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee, squared off in a prime-time debate that could alter the course of an unprecedented race for the White House. The 90-minute debate was at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia.
Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee, quickly launched into a bitter, fast-moving, energized and occasionally angry exchange in a prime-time debate.
I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy, look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists, they have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
මාතලේ සේනාගම කියන්නේ දුෂ්කර කම්මානයක්. ඔවුන්ගේ ජීවනෝපාය කෘෂිකර මාන්තේ සහ කුලී වැඩයි. මේ ගමේ වැසියෝ කන්න තුනම වගා කරලා රටට බත සැපියුවත් ඔවුන්ට බොන්න පිරිසිදු ජලය නැහැ. ගම්මැද්ද ඔවුන් සොයාගියා. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පවුර.
The 45th annual general meeting of the Sri Lanka-Japan Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce was held in Colombo yesterday.
Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Mizukoshi Hideki, speaking at the annual general meeting, highlighted that his tenure as the ambassador to Sri Lanka will come to an end in October 2024.
I have an important announcement to make today. This morning, Japanese government, by the cabinet decision, decided to appoint me to ambassador of another country. It is Sweden. And it means that my tenure as ambassador to Sri Lanka will end before the end of October this year. The 3 years that I served in Sri Lanka was particularly a challenging time for leadership in Colombo in November of 2021. In the aftermath of cancellation of the light rail transit project in the same year. Then came economic crisis in the spring of 2022, the worst in the history of Sri Lanka. I have experienced long queues for petrol and long hours of power cut, as you have all experienced. We also had to suspend the Enron projects as Sri Lanka declared default. But at the same time, we supported Sri Lanka with humanitarian assistance and in the challenging negotiation of debt restructuring. It was surprising how quickly Sri Lanka's economy stabilized with its reforms in accordance with the IMF agreement, with the efforts of all of you. And through our economic cooperation in the time of crisis, Japan and Sri Lanka regained gradually trust to each other. It was a most rewarding experience for me to be able to support Sri Lankan people in the most challenging time in their history, and at the same time uplift our relationship.
The Japanese embassy conferred the foreign minister's commendations to the Sri Lankan Japan Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce at the meeting.
Western Automobile Assembly Private Limited announced the opening of its state-of-the-art SKD assembly plant in Kuliapitiya yesterday in Colombo.
The state-of-the-art SKD assembly plant in Kuliapitiya marks a significant advancement in local vehicle assembly, driving economic development in Sri Lanka.
It has taken a considerable time, but however, we did this project with our own initiative, with our own investments, and we fulfilled the BOI's investment criteria, the investment amount, and we also have finally got this project off the ground.
This project represents a substantial investment in both the automotive industry and the economic vitality of Sri Lanka.
A bikeathon ride to save lives got underway in Colombo yesterday.
Ride to Save Lives is a powerful and inspiring bikeathon dedicated to raising awareness for suicide victims in Sri Lanka. This bikeathon covered an impressive distance of 1,333 kilometers in 13 days, symbolizing the journey towards hope, healing and mental health awareness.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.